Ole Miss quarterback Jaxson Dart is one of the more talented guys in the 2025 NFL draft class, but his draft stock is a little bit in the middle. What are some of the best NFL landing spots for him? We'll discuss multiple teams and find the right one. That and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I'm a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. And you know I got to kick the intro to Mr. LSU himself, Keith Sanchez. You can find and follow him on X at TheTalentCode. Can you talk to him, baby?
What's up, Locked On family? Let's get locked in. This is Keith Sanchez, 2019 national champ man, and the other side to this dynamic duo that we like to call the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to start this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Every listener is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. DP, today's show, man, we're going through the best landing spots for Ole Miss quarterback Jaxson Dart. Yeah, we'll tell you the round we think you should go. We'll tell you the team they think you should go, and we'll break down the scenario. Then we're going to break down Heisman contending, some say the top running back in the entire country, Ashton Jeanty, right? We're going to put the spotlight on him. We're going to break him down. We're going to talk about who he is as a running back and what are the expectations. And then we're going to bring out the spotlight, the last segment, man, and we're going to pick a prospect, highlight him, talk about what he needs to do to finish the season out to keep that 2025 NFL draft stock elevating. DP, let's get this thing going.
This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Jaxson Dart, quarterback for Ole Miss, senior quarterback for Ole Miss, 6'2", 225. Young man started his career out at USC, then transferred in 2022 to Ole Miss, and he's been the starting quarterback ever since for Lane Kiffin.
Yep.
And when you look at his game, Keith, he's got, NFL build, NFL arm talent. His numbers look really good on the season. 70.8% on completion percentage, 3,409 yards passing, 25 total touchdowns. He got coming off of this week. He'll be coming off the bye. His last game was against Georgia, where he gutted it out and made some good throws, some good decisions, everything like that. When I look at Jaxson Dart, I think about a guy who is playing good ball right now in the NFL as a rookie, and that's Bo Nix. And the reason why I think about Bo Nix is senior quarterback, played a lot, has a lot of snaps under his belt coming into the NFL, but their profiles were kind of similar to me in terms of the positives and then the negatives. And what did Bo Nix going to Oregon? What happened? He went to an offense that gave him easy answers, allowed him to really play and dictate the game on his terms, getting the ball out quickly, things of that nature. You look at Jaxson Dart going from USC when Caleb Williams came in. Mm-hmm. Jaxson Dart transferred out. He went to Ole Miss to the Lane train, as you like to call him, Lane Kiffin, and Lane did the same thing for Jaxson Dart, right? Easy access to throws, easy access to open windows, different things like that, and then isolating the single routes to give him those outside shots, right? We saw it with Bo Nix and Troy Franklin and Tez Johnson. They get those one-on-ones. Same thing with Trey Harrison, sometimes Juice Wells. Depends on how that connection is going during the game. And I look at best landing spots, Keith. First one comes to mind is Sean McVay and the Los Angeles Rams. For number one, second round. I'm not there with Jaxson Dart as a first-round quarterback. Now, if a team, we always say this, if he's your guy, get your guy. I'm not against that, right? You get that fifth-year option. You get that extra year. If it takes him a year or two to really get going, you get the fifth-year option as a buffer. You don't have to pay him immediately, right? Like if a guy has one great season, Daniel Jones, and it was like, crap, we got to pay this man. Mm-hmm. No, you get the fifth-year option, right? So I think it's a situation like, for me, putting Jaxson Dart in L.A. with the Rams, I love that fit. Sean McVay, what has he done for Jared Goff? He doesn't have to do it for Matthew Stafford because Matthew Stafford is a wily veteran and one of the best quarterbacks in the league. But with Jared Goff, like for a while, like he was the guy in his ear giving him the audibles live in play until they cut the communication between the quarterback and the coaching staff. Sean McVay's passing concepts, the weapons that they have in Los Angeles, I think Jaxson Dart will absolutely thrive there. Because again, similar to what Bo Nix is, Bo Nix went to Sean Payton, one of the best offensive minds in football, and he's basically trying to emulate Sean Payton's more mobile, big arm version of Drew Brees in terms of attacking those vulnerable underneath spots. And when I can get that deep ball, that one-on-one, I'll test it, but I'm not going to test it a lot. So I think Jaxson Dart to the Los Angeles Rams in the second round would be a great fit because he gets to sit, I think, at least 1 year behind Matthew Stafford before Stafford either retires or his contract is up.
DP, I like that. I like that so much that I probably went with a very similar situation. And the guy that the head coach I'm picking, these guys know each other. They're familiar with each other, right? I'm going with the Miami Dolphins and Mike McDaniel. I think it's a good situation because Jaxson Dart can't afford to sit, right? And you want to project that Tua is going to be healthy, but you can't, right? And so I think if you're the Miami Dolphins, because you look and see where they sit right now, if you're going to continue to play Tua, you need a high-end backup. You need a guy that at the end of the day, if Tua goes down, we're not going to just lock it in that the Dolphins are going to lose, right? Because the season is too valuable. You only get 17 opportunities. A loss means everything, right? And so, like, you have to have somebody that can at least go 500 or a little bit over 500 and give you a fighting shot. So I look at Jaxson Dart, and for all the reasons you kind of talked about the Sean McVay situation, right? And I know they all kind of Shanahan, McVay tree, like they all come from the same situation or have some of the same principles offensively. I look at it like, hey, you give him Tyreek Hill, you give him Jalen Waddle, right? Jonnu Smith is playing well for the Miami Dolphins, and then the running game that they have at Miami, I think Jaxson Dart can play well in that scheme and situation. Then also, I look at it. I think Lane and Mike McDaniel, or not even think, I know that Lane and Mike McDaniel are different people personality-wise, but one thing they both understand is quarterbacks, right? Like just their mental and things like that. And so I look at a guy like Jaxson Dart placing him with Mike McDaniel in Miami, and Jaxson Dart got swag. I don't know if you pay attention to like his pregame outfits when he's walking off the bus. So you can put Jaxson Dart in South Beach and he's going to thrive, baby. He's going to thrive. So I like the Miami situation for Jaxson Dart.
No, I mean, very similar situation. And I think the part, like what Lane has shown, the same thing Mike McDaniel has shown, they are a QB's coach. Like you said, understanding the mental part of it, like, and I think this is a lost art at times in coaching. Everybody can't be coached the same. Yeah. You can't cuss out everybody on the team when they make a mistake. Some guys, you got to go pat on the back of the helmet. It's all right. We're going to go back out there. We're going to get them again, right? Keep that confidence up. Some guys, you can get in their face, yell at them, spitting, as you're talking and all that stuff. It just gets them riled up. Typically, those are linebackers like Roquan Smith. Like those type of guys. You can get in their face and smack them on the helmet and hit their pads and all that. Matter of fact, look at what we're seeing in Los Angeles with the Chargers, right? Jim Harbaugh, pregame, the same thing he did to J.J. McCarthy. He's talking to matter of fact, he's throwing and playing catch with his quarterback, helping his quarterback get his arm loosened up. And then he walks up to him pregame before like all the festivities of the pregame is over. He, taps on the shoulder pad. He locks him. He helps them get locked in. That having a coach like that, Mike McDaniel, a guy that understands what did Tua, I think Tua talked about it. Under Brian Flores, he didn't feel supported. That was the biggest change about getting Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel instilled confidence in him. So in case Tua career can't be extended because of these concussions, and we pray he don't get any more, but it's just we don't know. Jaxson Dart in that offense, man, and he brings a rushing element that Tua, even when he wants to, you don't want him to. You know what I mean? Because of the concussions. Jaxson Dart can run the QB zone read, the QB power, the veer. In red zone, it's 11-on-11 football again with Jaxson Dart under center for Miami Dolphins because you have to factor in he's a running threat. Inside, he's a running threat, period, but especially inside the 10. If you're just playing, you think you don't have a guy to spy him, that backside end is not thinking about him, he's going to pull the ball out the mesh point, and he's going to just walk in for a touchdown. So I like that fit. I think for Jaxson Dart, whether it's the Miami Dolphins or the Los Angeles Rams, you get to sit You don't have to come in with the expectations of being the guy, and then you're in two offenses that fit your skill set to a T and help you become a successful NFL quarterback. I think if that happens, he might be one of the more successful quarterbacks from the 2025 NFL draft.
Yeah, I agree. DP, we talked about quarterbacks, man. Now let's transition to one of the more polarizing names in college football, one of the more polarizing names as far as NFL draft prospects. That's running back, Boise State, Ashton Jeanty. Let's break them down. Let's get into them. Let's talk about NFL expectations coming up next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. Prize Picks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money all football season. Which players are going off? Which ones aren't? Make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. Run your game. Pre-alcohol probiotic drink by Z-Biotics is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. Here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. It's this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down. Just remember to make Z-Biotics your first drink of the night. Drink responsibly, and you'll feel your best tomorrow. Go to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use Locked On NFL at checkout. Z-Biotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee, so if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund you your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/LockedOnNFL and use the code LockedOnNFL at checkout for 15% off. Scouting running back from Boise State and Heisman hopeful. Some people has him as the Heisman favorite. Ashton Jeanty, listed at 5'9", 215 pounds. And the numbers are what the numbers are. 256 carries on the season, 1,893 yards rushing, 26 rushing touchdowns. It's just incredible, right? Just the statistics and what he's putting out on tape. And Keith, I'm gonna go here because I had to, and I'm gonna preface this because people are gonna be like, "All right, DP, you don't lost your mind." When I thought I was thinking about comps for him, and initially, at first when I did this report over at Bleach Report, I put LaDainian Tomlinson, and I was like, that's a little too high. I had to come down. I had to come down just fresh off the film. I'm like, man, this guy's so good. So I had to bring myself down a little bit. Keith, I got a little too high on myself. And then I had to think about it, just watched him again. And I was like, all right, who does he remind me of? And then I listened to him talk. And he was like, yeah, he made a statement that only physical running backs would make. And it's basically he wants to inflict punishment. Like, he wants to punish defenders. Trent Richardson from Alabama, not NFL version of Trent Richardson, Alabama's Trent Richardson, right? The Heisman winning Trent Richardson. And I went back and I watched the tape and I watched some of Trent Richardson's college stuff. And I was like, man, this is almost perfect. You know what I mean? The physical run style, the contact balance, the open field speed, and like one-step elusiveness, being able to read and cut against defensive leverages. Neither one of those guys, that's why I said, like, he's not Bijan and Saquon, but like looking at how he runs, and I forget, it was the San Jose State game. I'm watching, he takes a carry up the middle, and I think it was either a linebacker or a safety ran the alley, and he hit him up top. First of all, that safety was small. I was like, dude, this was not the right idea. And it just, Ashton, he just bounced off the hit and just kept going. And I was just like, that's some Trent Richardson stuff. Because Trent Richardson, I think once he got to the league, was like 225, 230, somewhere in there. But I think when he was at Bama, he was like more 215, 220. The body types are similar. I think Trent's legs were a little bit thicker at Bama, but I think their games are so similar. And just watching them, man, I think this is a legit RB1 for NFL offense, Keith. I do think that I got him graded as like a top 20 prospect, but that's also indicative of how this class looks.
This class,
but
yeah.
this class isn't great right now, and that's why I feel like I did a live mock draft last week on Bleacher Report, and some of the fans in the chat were mad I didn't put him at 11 to the Cowboys. I'm like, guys, there are too many running backs to take a running back top 12. Especially they got other needs. I think I gave him a receiver like Luther Burden or somebody, But when I look at Ashton Jeanty, he is RB1, and I'll say this too, Keith. Amari Hampton ain't far behind. Like, and people gotta watch the tape and understand how close they really are.
Yeah, I was about to say, not only is he not far behind, people better just make sure they're not on the same level, right?
Exactly.
I think it's that close. I wasn't expecting a Trent Richardson name pull. I think that's interesting. Yeah. He said nobody is. I think that's going to add an interesting context to this, right? Obviously, there's going to be a negative connotation, right, when you initially say it, but I think it's one of those things where people, instead of being clickbaitish, right, you got to actually listen to the context when you're talking about at Alabama, and I'm not projecting him to have the same issues that he had in the NFL, right? Like, I'm not projecting those same type of situations on him. I'm looking at Ashton Jeanty DP, and I think he's in that good second tier, right? You're talking about NFL projection. I think he will be really talented. I think there are a handful of guys that are just awfully special, right? And that's the Saquons, that's the Christian McCaffreys, right? But those guys that have had impacts in the NFL at a high level. Well, Derrick Henry too. I'll put Derrick Henry in there. I don't want people because people get mad if you need all names and stuff. But that high end second tier, I think that's where he will live in at, and it's a very productive second tier. And I think it's a Pro Bowl caliber, right? Like, I think he's a Pro Bowl caliber running back, and that's what I find value in. And I think because when we watch him, and you tell me if I'm wrong, you do see some type of athletic ceiling, right, with him. Yeah. But the thing is that's so special about him is just how he bounces off tackles, and sometimes it just doesn't make sense, right? It's like, how do you keep breaking all them tackles? And it's to the point where you even ask yourself, like, well, if this is an NFL defender, will you break that tackle? Right? Like, you think about that type
that's
of
Roquan Smith or Fred Warner. Are they bouncing off of you, or they wrapping you up and taking you to the ground?
Yeah. And you have those type of questions. So I think he's gonna be. I think right now, DP, that I think we're kind of ahead of the curve as far as having the discussion about Ashton Jeanty, because I think everybody is doing the thing of looking at the numbers and then just saying, "Oh yeah, boom, he's that talented." But I think even if you look back, even with Breece Hall, remember, we watched Breece Hall, and I think you might have been a little bit higher on him, but I was just like, I like him, I just don't love him right now, right? And you see how that's playing out right now at the moment with the Jets. But with Ashton, I think he's a first round draft prospect in this class. I think he can immediately come in as a starter, right? I just wouldn't put him on the same caliber coming out as draft prospects as Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs, right? The two premier guys we had.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah, I would
about Jahmyr.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't put him on that level neither, because I think the speed and explosiveness, and I also think that this is the thing, that both of those guys too, they kind of went to weird situations, right? Atlanta, like with Bijan, the first, second year, the Arthur Smith situation and splitting carries, and like I don't know what that balance is, and then obviously we know the balance with the Detroit Lions, right? Like there's a clear role for Jahmyr, but I think he can do even more than what that role is. And then, so the production is not there, but I think those guys as athletes were higher caliber athletes than what Ashton Jeanty is.
No, 100%. I think I put that in my report. Watching him, I felt like his top speed, once he breaks in the open field in terms of Jeanty, it's good, right? He could pull away from guys. If he's got a step or two on you, he's going to maintain that. My concern was the burst, the acceleration. I feel like it's solid, but like when you watch Bijan hit a hole, when you watch Saquon hit a hole, when you watch Jahmyr hit a hole, it's like if you don't have a defender in the alley, oh, it's a problem.
Yeah,
Because
it's
those
a wrap.
guys going to knife through there immediately. And I don't see that with him. I think from at an NFL level, I feel like defenses are going to be able to corral. Like, again, that's why for him, you want to go to a Dallas Cowboys because you're not, you know what I mean? You got CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott. They can throw the ball. You want to go to an offense that is not a bad offense, right? Like this is not the days of the early 2000s where you throw a running back in a bad offense and you hand the ball off to him 400 times. If you're Jeanty, you want to go to a situation where you're going to have more lighter fronts. In my mock last week, I put him back into the first to the Vikings. I was like, for his career, I'm helping him out. He go to the Vikings. You got Addison, Justin Jefferson, J.J. McCarthy, T.J. Hawkinson. You're never going to see 9-man fronts in that offense, right? But if you go to a bad situation, you will. And I think against what he does, and especially this year. Last year, I watched some of his tape last year too. Again, during the season, I wanted to kind of get a different feel. Like, okay, what was different last year to this year? He avoided tackles better last year. This year, he's relying on. I feel like he got bigger this year, like added more muscle and mass to his frame. He's relying on the contact absorption rather than making guys miss consistently. And I get it. He's facing 9-man fronts. Defenses in the Mountain West, the teams in the Mountain West aren't good, so they're trying to stop him. But I don't know if you can't live like that in the NFL at 5'9", 215. You're gonna have to make guys miss. Take the easier route because that punishment to your body, it adds up, man. You know what I mean? And if you're a high carry young man, a high carry rookie, you don't want those hits to add up and kind of shorten your career because you're not evading and making guys miss consistently. And that's one of my biggest concerns with him is that and the burst. But like you said, he's that second tier type of running back prospect over the last couple years in terms of he's not Bijan and those other guys, but he's still really good.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm still coming up with an NFL comp. Like I told you, I think I'm living somewhere in that Dalvin Cookish type range for him. That's what I said, like a Pro Bowl running back. But DP, let's keep this thing flowing, man. And what are we going to do? We're going to pick a prospect, put a spotlight on him, man. Just talk about that guy, NFL draft, how he can continue to help his college football team, but also help his draft projection through the rest of college football season because DP, sadly, is almost close to over, man. It's almost close to over. It went so fast. But DP, let's keep this thing going and flowing.
Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Guys, simple. Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering you more than 40 free. That's right, 40 FREE free online courses, including Constitution 101, the meaning and the history of the Constitution, introduction to free market economics. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or you can simply just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu to enroll. There's no cost and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/locked-on to register. Again, that's hillsdale.edu/locked-on to register. Hillsdale.edu/locked-on. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers. Prospect Spotlight, Keith. We have a matchup this week in the Big Ten where Iowa is on the road. Iowa's going, I think, to Maryland, right? And I expect we talked about Ty Felton and Dame's dudes yesterday. He didn't get in because, some drops and things like that. That's my guy still, but he didn't get in. I expect Maryland to say, hey, we got another 14 targets is coming his way again this week against Iowa secondary. But I'm going to that defensive line, and there's a guy that a lot of people don't know much about. He's a true junior on that defensive line, 6'4", 300 pounds, Aaron Graves. I call him the grave digger, Keith. Big 6'4", 300-pounder. He's got I think 2 batted passes on the season. He has 12 pressures, 3 QB hits. He has 5 sacks. And his pass rush win rate on 2 drop back sets for 300-pounder is 13.5%. He gets the job done. He's got good arm length. He's got really good power, being able to generate a surge, bull rush, speed to power conversion. But for a 300-pounder kid, I was watching some of his pass rush reps, and he hit a guy with the little jump cross chop. And I was like, hey, man, you forgot you 300 pounds. You don't really see big interior defensive linemen throwing that jump cross chop like that. But I think for this game, the running back Himby for Maryland, they try to play a balanced offense when they can. I think Aaron Graves being a good run defender, be able to set the point of attack, right? Reset the line of scrimmage with his power, knowing how to stack, peek, shed, discard blockers. I think that would be a situation for him to help that D-line stop the run game, force, I think, Billy Edwards, the quarterback, to drop back. And that secondary, I mean, even like going back to last year, they're opportunistic. If you throw the ball at them, and it's in range, they'll try and make a play on it. And I think Aaron Graves has a chance to be a difference maker on that defensive line, to get back there, force. I think he had a strip sack or two this year as well, and everything. He had a couple of pressures where if the tackle didn't come and act as a bumper, he probably gets the sack. You know what I mean? Or if the running back doesn't come and chip him late in the rep, he probably gets the sack. This is a good player. And like I said, true junior, he might go back to school and come out next year, especially because this is a really loaded and talented interior defensive line class. But Aaron Graves, a.k.a. I call him the Grave Digger, keep your eyes on Big 95 over there in Iowa, man, on that defensive line.
Yeah, I like that, DP. And it seems like Iowa year after year or every other year, right? They have a defensive lineman, that comes out, garners attention, one of those tough, gritty, scheme and also alignment versatile, right? He can play a little 4-eye, play a little 3-tech, kick out the DN. And it seems like he can do some of those things too. But DP, prospect spotlight, man, I'm going to go with quarterback from Indiana, Kurtis Rourke, right? And he's a guy that we've talked about time and time again on the QB rankings, right? And he's made plenty of top 10 appearances throughout this season, this process. And this is just simply the showdown, right? You get your big time matchup against Ohio State, 11 o'clock Central Time kickoff, a number 5 versus a number 2. And it seems like, I don't want to say this is all the marbles for Indiana, but it's going to be huge, right? Because they're going to say, who did y'all play outside of Ohio State? And with so many teams, other teams in the Big Ten, so many other teams in the SEC, right? In the Big 12, even making a push with the players that Arizona State has in Colorado and things like that, BYU, right? And so I'm looking at this and I'm saying, hey, Kurtis Rourke, prospect spotlight, go ahead and show your skill set, right? Throw with anticipation, make some big time plays, the mobility, right? Like make a play, escape the pocket, make a big time play down the field. And I think we may both feel like this. I feel like this, that the Ohio State team is really good football team, right? But there are moments, or they've put together showcases, right, to where they've played incomplete games. So I think you go in there, and if you can jump on top of them or just be competitive, you just want to make it to the fourth quarter, right? Make it to the fourth quarter and say, hey, can we make one more play than what they can? But I think Kurtis Rourke, for his own entire draft stock, DP, this could be a coming out game for him. He's 6'5", 230 pounds. He has the ideal measurables that people want in NFL quarterbacks, and he has good numbers, right? I think 21 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He's protecting the football, making good decisions, and this is an Indiana team that likes to run the football, right? So it's not like he's dropping back 50 times a game and just spraying it all over the place. So I'm looking at Kurtis Rourke as a prospect spotlight as far as raising his NFL draft stock, because could he be a guy that people buy into the winning mentality, right? And saying, hey, the Indiana situation, he bought in, and then because you see other quarterbacks, like for instance, Kirk Cousins, right? At Michigan State. Michigan State is not and sorry, all Michigan State fans, right? But it's not just a historically winning program football-wise, right? Yeah. And so Kirk Cousins being there, then winning some games, and then you look at it and you say, hey, could Kurtis Rourke kind of have that type of storyline, right? To where he's bringing a non-traditional winning program as far as football, right? And then putting it in position to be able to win some games, and then people associating that with him. So I'm looking at Kurtis Rourke because he does some things that I like on film.
No, I like Kurtis Rourke, and we've talked about him a good bit on this pod, Keith. And I think for him, as we consistently see, right, the NFL, they are still struggling with raw quarterbacks. You know what I mean? Trying to figure out how to really get them settled and like deal with the expectation. Every fan base, all 32 NFL teams, their fan base is coming to the season. It's 0-0 after preseason. We're going to the Super Bowl. Like all of them feel that way. You know what I mean? They're all rabid. they emotional. They think that they have a chance until midseason comes and it's like, well, we're 1-8. We're out of here. You know what I mean? We're not making the playoffs, right? So like that expectation bothers a lot of these GMs and coaches and everything else. So they do look to these quarterbacks, like we talked about, Bo Nix having all that experience, Brock Purdy having the experience, right? Jaden Daniels having the experience to where they come into the league and they're more ready to play than the toolsy Caleb Williams, who's learning to play within structure and different things like that, where it's more of a not a wait and see game, but just a game of patience. You know what I mean? And with Kurtis Rourke, again, like you said, having the traditional measurements and measurables, excuse me, at 6'5", 230, 225, having a good arm, he's accurate. This is one of those guys where if a team, you think about, for example, and just being honest, with so many teams playing bad football right now, like the Raiders, let me look at Tankathon real quick. I don't know where the Raiders are in the current draft order. So they're at 5, right? They're at 5. Keith, Tennessee Titans at 2, Cleveland Browns at 3, New York Giants at 4. I'm telling you right now, Raiders fans, this might be year 2, that if it ends this way, you will not be getting the quarterback of your choice. I highly doubt it, unless one of those teams say, no, we're not going to take a quarterback. We'll kick the can down to next year. But, Keith, I think about it, Kurtis Rourke could be a guy on day 2 where if you're the Raiders, you're at 5 and all the quarterbacks that you desire are off the board. You go best player available yet again, whether that's Tator McMillan, a defender, whatever it may be, just improve the roster. 3rd round, Kurtis Rourke is on the board. You're like, you know what? He has more upside than a Gardner Minshew and than a Aiden O'Connell. I'll take this young man, and I'll feel comfortable starting him because he's played a lot of ball. For example, Keith, so far right now, heading into week 13, he in his career, he has over 1,300 dropbacks, and he's thrown the ball over 1,200 times in college. The experience is there, right?
Yeah. And a lot of people have experience thresholds for quarterbacks, right? So I'm looking at this guy and saying, hey, like he could be one of those sleeper guys nobody has paid attention to, but just comes in and he can win right away. And then to your point, the expectation of going early on, right? Sometimes with the NFL and how they react to media and fans and stuff like that and how they control quarterbacks, right? That it's almost better to go in the 2nd and 3rd round, right? So you can actually develop and take your time and develop and not be rushed to get on the field. And I always say this, there's no problem with sitting a quarterback for a year. Even if you feel like he's your franchise guy, sit him down for a year. Let him learn. We say that this is the hardest game. This is the hardest level.
Bryce Young and Anthony Richardson both come back, and they look like totally different quarterbacks.
Right.
It's like maybe you should have sat him off the rip.
Yep, 100%. So we'll see how that thing goes. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day, man. Every listen is greatly appreciated here over at Locked On NFL Draft. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find me on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us because we like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Get the latest episode as soon as it is available. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Sorry for being our everydayers. Guys, we got more college football talk, NFL draft talk. We're getting ready for week 13 of the regular season. So we know we got to talk about that the rest of this week. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.